I'm so glad to be here. So the discussion here around these superheroes and everything that's going on, I went and saw Endgame. I will not share any spoilers, don't worry. Between that and Game of Thrones and all that, that's all I heard yesterday. I was driving back and forth to Newport News Shipbuilding. But what makes me really excited is, thank you, Will, is the work that you do each and every day. Whether that is, in your company, leading others, all that. And so what today is about is how do we recruit, retain, and develop our next set of superstars? I call that sort of re-recruiting our superstars. So we work so hard to get them, and then, you get them going, you're doing a great job, and then what happens? Knock, 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 someone calls from another company, and they say, hey, we really like your superstar, can we take them? So we're going to talk about some ways to retain them. What I'm really, I'll be here through lunch today. What I really need help with, though, is I have my second daughter going off to college, and she graduates high school in 3 weeks. So all those that have mastered how do you split 2 campuses and juggle all those, and that has exceeded expectations. We have a 4th child, and so we've got 2 boys at home as well. So how do you sort of juggle all that? So the parents that have gone through that, if you could find me and give me some suggestions, I'm looking forward to that. That and my 17-year-old daughter every night is just rotating between tears and pure joy. So anyone that wants to give me that feeling, or maybe I'll just stay around for dinner and have some drinks with you tonight and not go home. How about that? Okay, let me dive in here. So this is about retention and re-recruiting superstars. So you can see when I was putting this together, we were still in the Infinity Wars section. We've lost half the universe, so if you don't know the story, half the people are gone, half our heroes are gone. And so I thought, what a perfect example. Not knowing what was going to happen in Endgame, but we've got half the superheroes gone, half the population gone, and that probably feels a little bit like our workplace. Just as we get someone trained up, we lose that superstar. So today is about how to recruit the best people, develop them, and keep them. So let's talk about that. There is a war for talent going on out there. We're at 3.8% unemployment rate at the end of March. That's actually ticked up a little bit. It was down as low as 3.1% earlier this year. In Virginia, we're down at 2.9%. This region right here that we're in is actually 2.2%. So we're right here against Virginia Tech. Probably only going to get worse for Virginia. Amazon, as you are well aware, is just in today's paper announced that they're ahead of schedule. They start posting for the jobs. And so finding the talent going to be really challenging. Next, it's not slowing down. So we had 196,000 people added jobs in March of 2019. You can see the sort of where it's trended. It's been averaging about 225 to 250,000 jobs per month. So what's that mean for you? Here's what it means for you. We've got a math problem going on, guys. 10,000 baby boomers are retiring every day. Let me repeat that. 10,000 baby boomers are retiring every day. So sort of think over 55, 10,000 of them will retire every day. In a lot of the places that you work, I do a lot of work in laboratories across the United States, and a lot of places like that, the average age of the manager is 57.2 years. And so the folks that are leaving are our leaders. There's a lot of institutional knowledge that's leaving. The next generation was Generation X. They're the smallest generation. On top of that, they're a little skeptical. You're looking at one of them. We're a little skeptical of do I really want to take that big job? Is that what I want? I see what those baby boomers did and how many hours they're working. I don't really want to do that. I want to go play with my kids and coach the sports team, and those hour-long meetings that turn into 3-hour meetings from 4:30 to 7:30 at night. I don't want to sign up for that. And then we got the millennials coming along. Everyone wants to talk about the millennials. They're not quite old enough to take a lot of the leadership roles yet. So even as they grow, they're not quite there. I'll introduce you towards the end to the digital natives. They're the newest folks that are coming into the workplace. They're the 23, 24-year-olds and younger right now. So we've got a bit of a math problem going on. And so what I'm talking to folks about is, that person that's kind of okay, that in the past you're like, I'm sure I can get somebody better. I'm telling you right now, don't get rid of okay. This isn't just about recruiting superstars. This is also taking that okay person and getting them more motivated and engaged. So a true story from one of my clients, they had a controller that had been there about 10 years, and the person was okay. They did okay work. And they were you know, if they left, I'd probably be okay. Well, guess what happened? They left. 6 months later, the CFO still doesn't have a controller because everyone that they found either wanted more money or didn't have the experience. And so they went 6 months, so now I've got a burned out CFO. They've gone through 2 acquisitions, so he's been going crazy during the stretch of time. They just made an offer for $20,000 more to someone with three less years experience, and they didn't really love his attitude. So what I'm telling you is, even the mediocre right now, make sure you give them some love, because there's not necessarily someone right behind them that will fill in. What's it mean for you in your jobs and your interviewing? Anyone heard of the term ghosting of jobs? Right? So this kind of comes from the relationships that our teenagers are having. So when they're done sort of dating somebody, you know, instead of breaking up and doing it face-to-face or anything like that, what they do is they just stop answering texts. So we were kind of together, we were kind of hanging out, we were texting, 476 times per hour, and all of a sudden now we don't text anymore. But I don't tell you that we're done. I just stop returning texts, okay? And that's called ghosting. They just kind of faded away. All right? Well, guess what? Candidates and people and jobs are doing that now. And here's how it plays out. I didn't like the way you talked to me in the morning. Well, I've been interviewed someplace else, and they're going to have me start on Monday, and so I just don't come back after lunch. And I don't give you notice. I don't really care because, quite honestly, you saw the stats. I can get 7 jobs. Why do I really need to pay that much attention to you? So additionally, what I would tell you is that people are ghosting offers as well. So you think, wow, I've worked 3 months to go find somebody. I'm so excited. I'm finally getting the person I want. What I'm going to tell you is stay in touch with them, because lots of them are getting counter offers now from their last company. And so if you're not in touch, what's happening to some of these offers is they're staying at the other place. And so you think that they're going to come in on Monday, they stay at the last place. And you're all excited, and you stopped recruiting, and you haven't done anything for the last 4 or 5 weeks. Now you got a big hole. And so ghosting of jobs, ghosting of interviews, and ghosting of start dates is happening a lot. When I did this presentation 2 weeks ago, it was a room about this size. I had examples of between 8 and 10 people that had this happen. One of those things. So it's happening on a pretty regular basis. All right? The sign-on bonus is back. So I'm just trying to give you a sense for what to expect as you are trying to recruit against folks. The reason the sign-on bonus is back is because the other company doesn't want to lose me, and they're willing to make a retention bonus. And so literally I am down at Newport News Shipbuilding yesterday. The folks that build the real aircraft carriers that I saw on there. I was out on an aircraft carrier yesterday. The John F. Kennedy is the next one coming out, and the guy that I'm working with, he's in charge of it. And they're having to do sign-on bonuses to stay on schedule, because what keeps happening is their competition is willing to pay a little bit more money to go get the person. So they're doing retention bonuses, and the company across town is trying to do a sign-on bonus to match the retention bonus. So it's this sort of escalating war of you're trying to do a retention bonus, someone else trying to do a sign-on bonus. You might say, well, that really stinks. That's not fair to me. Like, I didn't get a sign-on bonus. Here's what I'll tell you. Get over yourself. If you want the talent, you may have to get one person. You may have to do a sign-on bonus. What's the average for a management job, sort of frontline management right now? It's somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000. Director level, it's about $20,000. At vice president level, you're looking at $30,000 plus. Frontline staff, about $2,500, just to give you a sense of what I'm seeing. So I go all across the country, work with folks all across the country. That's what I'm seeing. Additionally, people will say, should I counteroffer or not? I will tell you that in about 2010, 2012, you didn't counteroffer. There's going to be good enough people out there, and so you'd be better off having someone that really you want. Now, going back to my controller example, there may not be somebody right behind that. It might make sense for you to counteroffer. So we got someone that right now is putting out a new software installment. They're the CIO. This guy got another offer. We need this to go live September 30th. We could not afford a hole in the schedule. And so we counteroffered to make sure that this person stayed. We said, hey, look, after this project's over, if you want to move on, we'll give you a great glowing endorsement, but you need to understand what your business is. And so if you get to the counteroffer stage, you're probably a touch too late. So you really should be looking at who are your stars right now, and do I maybe need to give them a little bit of a bonus right now before they come to you and say, hey, I don't want you to leave. This is how valuable. Try to get ahead of it. Once you've gotten to the offer stage, they're pretty well committed. It's hard to get counteroffers accepted. So you should be thinking about who are your superstars, how do we re-recruit them? This next one, disengagement. So the Gallup survey says that only 32% of us are fully engaged in the workplace. Only 32%. So what that means for you as leaders is that 68% are disengaged at some level. So we're going to talk about throughout the presentation, how do we get some of those folks more engaged? Because it's going to be hard to find somebody else. And if they've already committed to you, they already know how to use your systems, they know how to work at your place, easier to get them more excited, more engaged, than go find somebody else, get them trained up, and get them to like your company. Make sense? So we're going to talk a little bit about some engagement strategies. And then finally, you better be thinking about a bench. The bench is sort of twofold. The bench is, how do I do some succession planning for critical roles, also knowing which roles maybe I can't recruit for, and I'm always going to have to go outside. But I'd also say that people are willing to work for your organization. If they love your organization, they're willing to wait. How long? A few months. You may not have a job opening right now, or maybe your budget doesn't free up until July 1 or October 1 or January 1, depending on sort of what fiscal cycle you're on. What you can do, though, is get ahead of it and start your interviewing now if you know you got some open positions, and start to find some folks that you want to recruit and get them interested in your company and letting them know when you'll be able to hire them. Most people, if they like your company, are willing to wait a couple months. In today's marketplace, if you're a good company, they will wait. But they won't wait 6 months to a year. So if you know you have some openings coming, start talking now and build your bench, because you can't count that the person you're offering to will necessarily accept. You may need 2 or 3 people because the counter offers are there. All right, depressed you yet? It's kind of the way it is. I'm not, for the folks that know me, I'm Mr. Optimist, so this is kind of a hard message for me to deliver. I'm trying to give you, though, the realistic, this is what it's like. Now, on the good news front, if you're looking for a job, woohoo, things are good. So if you're looking for a job, this is a great time. I would also tell you, though, that this is a great time for employers to understand we've got to work harder to make our workforce successful. And so what are you doing to be that leader to help grow your talent? So let's talk about that a little bit more. So one of the things that I think we underutilize is purpose. As it says up there, we're human beings, not human doers. And so too often I see leaders who just say, go do the job. Well, that's not going to work. What folks are saying is, I want to connect with purpose. I want to know your purpose. If I understand your purpose and you give me good tools to do the job, I'm likely to stay with you. If it's just a job and you don't explain how I fit in, then that's where that disengagement comes. And so if you're not using your purpose and helping people connect their work to the purpose, you're missing a really big opportunity. I see this a lot. So I worked in healthcare a good bit, and I go upstairs after a really stressful meeting, and I go to our NICU, and I would just walk by the NICU. And that every time, that kind of took away the argument that was happening downstairs. I was on the executive team for 9 hospitals, and when I went upstairs, it all just kind of faded away. And I was able to reconnect with purpose. But then I go back downstairs to our executive offices, and the folks there were like all banging and completely forgetting about purpose. It's easy to forget your purpose. So we as leaders, it's our job to reconnect folks to our purpose, help them understand. If they don't understand where they fit in, draw the line for them, connect the dots. Ask them about their best day and how do they live out our mission and our purpose, all right? This next one's on your table, so it's where you're sitting, is either on a chair or on your table. And here's what I tried to do. I tried to take Maslow's hierarchy of needs and put it in regular words. So that whole self-belonging, self-actualization, and all that crazy stuff, that didn't work for me, right? So I tried to just put it in regular words. So I'm going back to the Gallup information. If only 32% of people are really engaged, clearly we need the opportunity to get them more engaged and more motivated. Would they appreciate if they had more engaged and motivated staff in their workplace? Yeah? I know I need it. I know I could really use it. So let's start this. What we're trying to get to is all the way at the top, where we have the most motivated and engaged workforce that we can have. Where do you think we should start? Should we start up here at the top with this feedback and development and growth? Does that make sense? Or do you think we should start at the bottom, at the base here, with expectation, goals, tools, etc.? Bottom? Yeah, why the bottom? Foundation. Yeah, you're right. It's the bottom. Here's the deal, though. A lot of times we get folks in, and then we're like 30 days in, and we're like, so tell me about your career. What do you want to do? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And we get real excited, and we're like, come on, I want you so bad. You're great. And in 30 days, a lot of people, they're doing a really good job because like they have a little bit of that imposter syndrome. They're being their best version of themselves. We've all done it. It's called January 1st. Right? You know, we go to the gym like 4 times that week. You know, we don't have the sweets and all that kind of stuff. That's kind of like the first 30 days on the job. Everyone's like their best. They're like 7 minutes early. You know, they're picking up, you know, all the work that they can. Here's the deal. When you have that question too early, I don't know if I can trust you yet. We haven't had enough time together. We don't have enough relationship built yet. And so I'm going to trust you with my career. Those are those kind of questions. What if I just took this job to pay the bills? And now you want me to come talk about it? Well, I don't even know how to answer the question. What if I answer it honestly? Are you going to hold that against me? And so what we got to do is start at the bottom. So let's look at the bottom for a few minutes here. Consequences, understanding, expectations, goals, and tools. Do I have those things to do my job? Do I have clear expectations? I will tell you that walking around and talking to people all across the country, really all across the world, this is the number one thing that they say. It's like I walk around with a blindfold on, is how they answer the question. They're like, I really don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I have a vague sense of what the folks want from me, but really, I kind of do some good work, and here's what I get. More work. I occasionally get the good job, and you're like, which part? Was it that I was on time? Was it that I did a PowerPoint presentation? Was it that I talked to the right people? And so one of the things I would encourage you is we got to really be given specific feedback. And that starts from clear goals, expectations, and tools. I'll give you just a sense of a conversation I had about, it was probably 6 weeks ago now. Company spent $80,000 to recruit this person, so they paid the headhunter fee, $80,000. I'm coaching this guy, he's a CEO, first-time CEO, former surgeon, Baylor football player. Like, this guy is just fantastic, right? Off the charts, meets all expectations. So I sit down with him and just said, you know, tell me about the expectations you got. He's like, the what? I'm like, you know, what do they expect in the first 90 days? Yeah, we didn't get to that conversation. Okay, great. Well, how about the end of the first year? How's the board, how's the team going to measure you? They can't figure it out. Well, how are you spending your day? He goes, exactly. I don't know. He goes, I'm just kind of thrashing around, trying to do a little of this, a little of that. He goes, are you getting any feedback? I'm like, you're the CEO. No, people don't give feedback on CEOs, right? And so that's what it's like, though. And we do this all the time. We bring people in, we work really hard to hire them, and we kind of throw them into the job. Maybe we have decent expectations and a decent onboarding plan for the first 2 to 3 weeks. And then we kind of get busy ourselves, and we fade away. So what I'm encouraging is, let's have really good goals and expectations. All right, let's spoof on Jeff for just a second. So I was a young, hotshot kid. I was 26 years old at this time. I'm having a conversation. I'm in charge of 2,500 people in a call center, which is crazy they gave a 26-year-old that much responsibility. I'm just telling you, it was crazy. The CEO, his name's Rich Fairbank of Capital One. He's still the CEO. This is 1994. He was a first-year CEO at that point. This is the first time he's ever come into our site. We're the first headquarters outside of Richmond, and he's coming to my site. We're going to go from 1,000 employees to 23,000 employees in a 3-year stint. So everybody that's working is going to get promoted, basically. If you're a warm body at that time, you are getting promoted, okay? And so I'm way up here talking about feedback and growth and development, right? I want everyone to be having a great time learning, and this is going to be the best places to work. That's one of the things we're striving for. Okay, so Rich is coming. The previous week, he was on the cover of Business Week magazine, and the day that he was coming to meet with me, he was on the cover of Wall Street Journal, just to give you a sense of his profile. And he's coming to my call center. I'm like pumped. 2,500 people. Got everyone practiced. Ready? All right, he comes. He talks for 45 minutes. Let's move to question and answers from the audience. I cannot wait. They're going to talk about career development, how they're going to be great at Capital One. Anyone know what the first question was? You won't get it. Can we get the door fixed? I'm like, the what? The who? Can we get the door fixed? We were renting the Geico building in Fredericksburg, Virginia, and here's what happened. We had to swipe in, from a security perspective. The turnstile is not working. I've called twice, but I haven't really bird dogged the issue. All right, so now instead, you basically have to walk like 100 yards that way to get out and walk all the way around the building to get back to your car that's parked right there. Okay? Well, here's the deal. If you're in the call center, you get 2 breaks per day of 15 minutes and you get a 30-minute lunch. And so now you're going to use like 3 or 4 of your valuable minutes walking all the way down there, all the way around the building. And so how can they trust me with their career when I can't get the stupid door fixed, right? So I'm like, well, okay, I survived that. You know, we can get that fixed. The next question, I'm like, all right, here we go. Our food sucks. Can we get better food? I'm like, oh, it's going to be that kind of day. They weren't wrong. Look, at the time, Fredericksburg was about 18,000 people. You bring 2,500 jobs to a town like that, I'm not eating in our cafeteria. I'm going out with the Chamber of Commerce, the Economic Development people, the Country Club, because I brought 2,500 jobs to this little town, right? To be fair, the 2 times I did eat our food, it did stink, right? They occasionally asked like 1 or 2 better questions, but for the most part, it was all this stuff at the bottom. And so I chased Rich out of the building, just say, oh my God, please don't fire me, I'm only 26, who knew, you know? I really, of all the things, thought that I would get fired, that was not on my horizon. He's like, oh my God, Jeff, this is awesome. He goes, those are things that you can fix. Go do it. Get the door fixed, bird doll that thing. He goes, go get a new caterer. Fix it. He gave me an hour and 10 minutes to talk about how this could be a defining moment for me. Just think about that. A CEO gave me an hour and 10 minutes in his car, and we just chatted. I went and got the things fixed. Our engagement scores went from the worst in the company to the best for the next 3 years. Because what came next was then they started to give us better ideas. They had ideas about how we could treat our customers better. They had ideas about ways we could connect and do in different ways. But until I went first and fixed the door, got better food, and showed that I cared, they weren't going to go. And so you've got to have the tools and resources for them to do the job. So I want you just pondering, back in your workplace, do folks have the tools and resources needed to do their job? If not, it's our job as a leader to fight for those resources. I kind of knew that there was a problem, but I didn't really challenge and step up. I kind of just passed it up the chain and said, hey, we kind of need this. But I wasn't really leading. I was kind of hoping someone would do it. I was really kind of hoping someone would fix it, kind of like, Will came up and fixed the thing for me. See, I can delegate pretty well, right? I didn't bird dog the issue, though. So what's the key issue that your staff needs you to be working on? What's the one thing keeping them from doing their best work? And go get that fixed. Because now what will happen is, when we do that kind of work, let's see what comes next. We're getting people that are a little bit more motivated. They're going to give you more ideas. We need to give encouragement and praise. I can already hear a few of you out there. Hey, they're just lucky to have a job. They should do their job. Doing their job's enough. Hey, you know what? You got away with that in like 2008 to 2014. We had our chance to kind of just say, do your job. Guess what? In today's world, our employees are shopping for managers too. They now are looking for people that will grow and develop them. The number one thing that matters to millennials, okay, so that's going to be the biggest part of your workforce within 2 years. That's the biggest part of your workforce. The number one thing that matters to them, 87% of millennials say, I want a leader that talks to me about my development plan. I want a leader that talks to me about my development plan and where am I going. If you compare that to other generations, the other generations, it was only about 62% of people said that that was their number one. It's 87% for the millennials. So if you're not having a conversation about how they can grow and develop with you, then we're missing out. Well, that starts by saying, here's some opportunities for growth. One of the best recognitions that you can provide is letting someone else represent you in a meeting, doing a project, presenting out. It doesn't have to just be, hey, great job, here's the 3 things I thought you did really well. It's also representing you and giving them the opportunity to grow and shine. It's encouragement and praise. 5 to 1 is the ratio I want in your head. 5 to 1. 5 positive statements for 1 negative statement. 5 positive for 1 negative. How many workplaces do you feel like are at that ratio, 5 to 1? Most workplaces, it's a 1-to-1 ratio. So we're 1 negative, 1 positive. I see a few of you snickering. I know you're really probably in the 2-to-1, 2 negative to the 1 positive, right? I get it. But someone's got to change that formula. 5 to 1. You can go too far. If you get to 13 to 1, positive, negative, we call that kumbaya land. You guys are all just, unicorns and fairies and all kind of, pixie dust, right? 5 to 1, though, seems to be about the right ratio of positive statements to negative statements. We remember the negative. You don't have to over and reinforce that. We tend to forget the positive. And so what I encourage folks to do is create a calendar, put it on the calendar, put time on there to go do recognition, and then go and give specific feedback. After you do that, people will start to contribute in new and different ways. They're going to take some pride in their role. They'll take ownership because they saw that you cared and they see what matters. They'll start to take some of that ownership and they'll build different relationships. How I know this works is, I see that Amy and the team has indoctrinated you now. Everyone's got their Qualtrax stuff on. I love it. In your workplaces, here's how I know if there's pride in the organization. Do you wear your logos, insignia, your badges to the grocery store? If you don't love where you're working, you take your coat off, the badge goes in the car, right? If you love where you're working and maybe you have a referral bonus, you kind of walk through the Kroger or the whatever, like, woohoo, check me out. We're hiring. I get a bonus if you come on over. I will tell you that when I was at Capital One back in the day, there was about a 3-year stretch we were terrible to work for. We took pride in it, actually. We ran people off left and right. Nobody wore any Capital One stuff. I mean, we kind of felt like we had a great place to work, like from a come work for us, but we didn't feel like we needed a great place to work. They've consistently been one of the best places to work, just like Qualtrax is one of the best small businesses in the state of Virginia to work. What were you guys, number 4 this past year? Is that right? 5? Hey, let's give it up for Qualtrax. Number 5 in the state of Virginia. That's when you know you've arrived, though, is that your employees want to win those awards. They're the ones that suggest it. They're the ones that tell people about come work for us. And so if you're trying to recruit top talent, are you making your employees ambassadors to come work with you guys? Are you equipping them to be ambassadors? Yeah, sure. Sometimes it takes a little money too. That's okay, referral bonus. They're not going to refer somebody that they don't want to work with most of the time. There's the occasional person that just wants the dollars. But most people are going to refer people that they want to work with. And so are you making your folks ambassadors? Teach them how to be ambassadors and get top talent in through the door. Finally, I'm ready for that conversation now. For your feedback, guidance, development, and growth. Look, I'm not asking you to solve all my personal problems. You should be interested at what stage of life I'm in, right? So I alluded to it earlier. I'm also at the stage, I turned 50 last year, so I'm 51 now. And I wrote this blog about a coach looks at 50. And I was very blessed, both best parents and my parents were all still alive. That's probably not going to be the case at 60, right? At 50, we're very blessed. And so I'm probably hitting a stretch of life where I still have some young ones that I'm at home, and I'm probably going to be taking care of parents. So if you came to me 3 years from now and said, I've got this great stretch opportunity, I might say, you know what, right now I just want to get home to take care of a family member. And so it's understanding what point are the career in too. And I will open up if you've built trust with me, and I'll give you as much as I can, but you've got to know me. Again, I don't need you to solve my personal problems, but I need you to understand how I'm integrating my family life and my work life. It's no longer work-life balance. It's all integrated with these things being here 24 hours a day. We're all integrated now. And so you've got to help me understand how do I fit in. Asking great questions, development. This is not a once-a-year activity. This is probably a 3 times a year activity. You can do it as often as you want. It doesn't have to be a formal sit down behind a closed door, but it is something you should periodically ask and not just about how they're doing a task. So, few things in your toolkit, and Deanna has promised that we will get all these slides out to everybody. So anything that's up there, don't worry, we'll get it out. Feedback. Retained employees want and need honest feedback about how they're doing. They want feedback. They want to know. And so if you're not giving feedback and you keep staying busy, guess what? A headhunter is going to call and give this person feedback about how great they are. So you've got a chance when they're in your company to give the feedback, help them grow and develop. If you don't, somebody else will. And so why not go first? Next, retention. Ignoring star performer paves the way for them to be recognized by another employer. Here's what I laugh at. A lot of us will spend multiple hours interviewing somebody and telling them how great they are. Once we really like them, we tell them how great they are, and then we forget to do it the next 3-4 years, right? And so let's not forget that. Just think about, I call that re-recruiting. What was it about that person that you loved so much that you felt like you needed to hire them? Okay? And then tell them that on a pretty regular basis. I find that the ones that get the least recognition are actually the superstars because they don't ask for it. Some of the mid-level folks and some of the poor performers are like, pick me, Recognize me. Hey, look over here. The superstars are heads down just doing a good job, and often the reward is more work. They're willing to take more work pretty often. And they're also the ones, though, that if we don't recognize them, somebody will. And so, when was the last time you recognized that superstar? Picture it in your mind. Who's that right-hand person? And go recognize them this week. Okay? And then finally, retained employees feel a real sense of integrity from their reporting relationship. Do you care? Again, you don't have to solve my problems, but you care about me and what I'm trying to achieve. This is different. I'm telling you, 15 years ago, I would not have had that slide up there. It wasn't as important. It was a more transactional relationship. It was fine. Here's the difference, though. We are in a more of a consumer economy now. And so the millennials, digital natives, and even some of the Xers, we're used to having things catered to us. Some of us will say it's the downfall of America. We're not going there today, okay? Here's what I would say, though, is that they're used to having specific things that set them up for success in their products and their services. And so they're looking at you as a manager and say, why can't you cater to me? There's only one of me. Sounds like a Taylor Swift new song out, me, me, me. It is about me, 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 okay? And what I mean by that is, if you're not talking to me about me, somebody else will. It could be another company. It can be another department. And so if you don't take a little time to care about me and my goals, then I will find somebody else that will. It's as easy as Google, LinkedIn, Indeed these days, right? All right. So how do we do a good one-on-one? There's some tips up here. Here's what I'd say about it. Schedule it is the most important thing. And then honor it. Once you're in there, turn off all the bells and whistles. Put the phone away. If there's something that you have to, if you're on call or, you're the point person, let the person know, hey, it's possible I'm going to be interrupted, but let them know ahead of time. Too often what I see are one-on-ones where the person stays behind the desk and they spend most of the time kind of maybe 10% paying attention to that wonderful, talented person across the desk, and 90% of the time on checking the email, what text just came in, scanning the paperwork on the desk. I encourage people, get creative in some of your one-on-ones. Pull up a bench in the lab. Go for a walk if you have that ability. My favorite is Dairy Queen. I take folks to Dairy Queen, and we have great one-on-ones at Dairy Queen. How can you not be happy at Dairy Queen? I mean, I spend a few bucks. A few times a year, we go to Dairy Queen. We have great developmental conversations. We come out of there practically skipping. We have to skip with all those calories. But, what I tell you, though, is that when you do something different like that, it really helps. So Jennifer, who works for me, we do all of our one-on-ones walking on the Greenway. We're blessed in Roanoke to have a nice mountain. We walk up to the top of the mountain sometimes and back. We can get it done in an hour, and we have a really good discussion. And we come back for the last 5-10 minutes. We write down all the actions that we're going to take. And it was a great sort of two-way. We got some exercise in, and we had a great conversation. If we just stay inside our regular building and all that kind of stuff, I find we don't get very creative. So get creative in some of your things. Other things, you go first. Seek feedback. Ask them, what's one thing that I could do better to help you be successful? What's the one thing that I'm doing that has helped you be successful? Back to the door and the food. What's the one thing, what's the one tool or resource you need to do your job at its very best? People know. Often, it's not that expensive. If it is expensive, saying, hey, I can't get that right now, but now that I know, let me see what I can do to go work on that. I just need to know that I was heard. And so trying to do those kind of things. Asking, what are the satisfiers, dissatisfiers of work? The superstars, their number one dissatisfier. What do you think a superstar's number one dissatisfier is? Any ideas? What was it, workload? Workload, yeah, partly. They're willing to take more workload. It's somebody else's workload. Their number one dissatisfier is poor performing employees and you not do anything about it. Poor performing employees and you not do anything about it. And so what happens is I pick up more workload. I'm willing to do that once or twice. I might do it 3 times. I might understand that you got to work with human resources and it might take 6 months to manage somebody out. But if I don't see you're taking action and you consistently ask me to take more and more on and I don't see you take on a low performing employee, then I will leave you eventually. I'll give you some time. They tend to be more patient. I also say, it'll be one of my next books, get over being fair. The fair is someplace you go in the middle of summer at the state capitol, okay? Here's the deal. They're a superstar. You don't treat them fair. You treat them with extra time, effort, and respect. They should be the one that gets a little bit extra time off on a Friday afternoon. Hey, you did a great job. I don't want to see you. Get out of here by 2 o'clock. Go. Other people say, well, that's not fair. Well, then get as good as they are, is what I say. They performed. You're like, oh, well, we can't do that. There are other things that you can do, okay? There are ways that you can help people. Your time is one of the greatest resources you can give to strong performers. Your time. Whether that's in a developmental conversation, a book club, extra time on explaining what's thinking, or coming with me to a meeting. All those will help your good performers become great performers, okay? So those are some of the steps for one-on-one. You've got it. Recognition as a retention strategy. We talked about this a little bit, but don't delay. Get going. Some of you are like, oh, I'll get to it. No, you don't. You mean to. There's something called our intentions and our actual impact. We judge ourselves by our intentions, and when we say, oh, we're going to do such and such, we give ourselves a checkbox. Until we actually deliver that feedback, though, there is no impact, okay? So this happened to me about 2 weeks ago. That 17-year-old who is truly wonderful, she is going through the time, though. It's senior year, and it's kind of rocky and all that kind of stuff. And so I said, why don't I take her out to dinner? We'll just go and have a nice dinner. We'll just kind of relax. We'll do all that. So I give myself that endorphin hit of like, wasn't it great of me to think about taking my daughter out? Well, guess what? She had dance recital that night, so she couldn't go out. So I'm giving myself a check mark for thinking that like I took her out. And then I realized like I got busy and that whole week went by and I never took her out. So in my mind, I'm still like, dad of the year, because like I meant to take her out. All she can measure is like, man, I'm really stressed, and mom and dad don't even seem to be noticing. So we took her to in-game, and then we went ice cream and all that kind of stuff. So we did get there. But that's what happens. We give ourselves checks. Our people, though, are, what's the impact? So don't just check a box. Did you have the impact? Blissful ignorance, avoid that. Ask the question, what should we be doing differently? Don't be afraid of the answers. The first couple sting, quite honestly. But after a while, you get used to the feedback, and you realize they really are trying to make the place better. And often it's not you. It might be what's happening in our building. And then, practice recruiting. How would you treat them if you were to join the team today? We throw parties. We get excited. We introduce people. Why aren't we doing that right now? Re-recruit your superstars, okay? So we're trying to grow our workforce, we're training our workforce, and we're trying to develop our workforce. So I'm going to go through a couple more tips, and then I'm going to go through that other sheet that's there. I brought some of the problem children, so if we've got superheroes on the front end, we also have some folks that drive us a little crazy. So I'll go through the sheet there, and you may just write down a few examples here, all right? So the first thing is recruiting one-on-one. We got to get them in the door. So how we do that? In today's world, current employees are your best ambassadors. Ask them, how would you describe our culture? What do you like about our culture? What's working, what's not working? How do we treat you? How would you like to be treated? What can we do? So I often have folks that will say, oh my gosh, I'm creating this club where, we're going to have the best places to work teen group. I'm like, yeah, that'll work for a moment. Here's the deal though. The folks that are in charge, the manager, often feels like they get this list from that task force and it's their to-do list. I'm like, no. Here's how you do that. Put some of your best ambassadors against it. Give them a budget and say, now you go manage it. Because when you do it, you're the manager, and it's easy to say, we didn't like that, or that's not what we wanted. When peers do it, they take some ownership, they get some recognition, they learn some valuable skills for the future, and oh, by the way, you get to celebrate with them instead of being picked on that, like, oh, that wasn't how I want the thing. And no matter what you do, like if it's Dairy Queen, someone will say, well, I was on a diet. We really should have done something else, right? When peers do it to each other, there's a sense of we're all in this together. So find some really good talented people, have them do it. Next, have an onboarding plan. Here's the critical time period, 30 to 45 days. You guys do pretty well in the first 30, and then here's what happens. You get busy, and you stop paying attention, and you think that person's okay because they've had some success. Remember, they've been on their best behavior. Most of us, we can get our New Year's resolutions for about the first 30 days. I happen to be born on January 31st, so by my birthday, everyone stops their New Year's resolution. Yeah, right? It's just hilarious. We do it too. We think, okay, at 30 days, we've given them some time now. and we up the pressure. So 30 to 45 days, have a couple extra meetings. I ask people to do a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of our company. What's great about our company? What do you walk in and you see that we could get better at? What do you see as a threat to our organization? What's not working so well? Because you know what? At 30 days, it's pretty raw, and they'll give you some pretty good feedback. I ask them to do it again at 90 days. At 30 days, though, they're really raw. It's just feedback that Diane, who's a 24-year-old sort of millennial digital native person, she says, your website stinks. I'm like, thanks. Great, appreciate it. At 90 days, she goes, and now I understand why. She's like, you're so busy, you don't have time to update it, so that's going to be my job. Right? But at 30 days, she was raw. By 90 days, she'd spent enough time to understand we were resource constrained, and now she understood part of the reason we hired her. And so ask people at the beginning, but also stick by them, give them support. Next, make sure that you're identifying your needs. Too often what we do is someone leaves and we backfill the exact same job. When somebody leaves, that's an opportunity for you to look around and say, who else could take this role, and what roles does that leave open? So when you're losing somebody, make sure you critically assess, but also, are you developing future talent? Some of the jobs take 2 and 3 years to learn. So are you right now working on it? Yeah, that might require a little extra work, a little extra planning, but if you do it right, it also leads to retention, and you have that corporate knowledge that stays with you. And that's institutional knowledge really matters. Finally, creating a hiring plan. Who's going to hire them? Decide who can do it. I've got one company right now. It's unclear who makes the final decision, so they just keep going through candidates and candidates and candidates. I keep asking, who's the decision maker? Who's on point? Make this as easy as possible, because here's the deal. Right now, people get offers pretty quick. They're getting offers a lot of times within 24 hours, if not same day. And so if you're going to pull up and it takes you 2 weeks, that person may have already gotten an offer from somebody else, and they're going to say to themselves, wow, it took them 2 weeks to get me an offer. Is that the company I want to work for? Because I want to get my decisions implemented. And so people are judging you on your recruiting process. So when you can, try to have as much of your recruiting process done in one day, have a pull-up meeting at the end of the day, make a decision, and get an offer that night or the next day. Some of you might want to sit on it overnight. I'm okay with overnight. Don't sit on it until the end of the week, though, because the clock's ticking for these folks. All right? All right. So a few things to think about. Your time matters. Invest your time in the best talent. Invest your time with the best talent, and it will get returned. Your effort, people are watching, and if you're not role modeling some of the best behaviors at recruiting and retention, they notice. They also notice, where do you put your investment? Are you able to get the resources that I need to do my job? Do you ask the questions that will lead us to better performance? If you do that, I'm probably willing to stick with you. I understand it may take sometimes a business cycle or two to get my tool or the resource, but I need communication going on. And then ultimately, integrity. I love this last question. Do you treat your employees like your best customer? Do you treat your employees like your best customer? If not, why not? Because guess what? These are the folks that are going to be talking to your best customers in some form or shape. They're going to be talking to them. And so they're going to talk about what it's like to be here. And so again, you've seen some of the joy that is in the Qualtrax employees here today. That's not fake. That's not them just dancing around. They treat you great because they get treated great. And so what are you doing to treat your folks great? All right. Let's dive into a few of these questions here. Anyone have this employee? My staff does just enough to get by. Anyone got that? Nobody? Okay, we'll skip that one then. Seems like that's an easy one. Marty, you've never seen this, right? Yeah, never. Okay. Okay, so my staff does just enough to get by. What's the challenge with that? What's the problem with my staff does just enough to get by? Motivation. Yeah. What was it? Rework? Yep. Can't grow. Yep. So there's also no innovation, can't grow. No incentive. Been there for 40 years. Sounds like we might have lunch together. We'll talk there. Okay, I might want to be a deeper dive. Yep, I got one of those. True story. When I was in the laboratory, I won't name the institution just to protect the innocent here. But I was in charge of HR for the 9 different places here, and I go to this laboratory manager, and I sit in our staff meeting. turnover was just running rampant. And I'm just like, what in the world is going on over there? Like, I cannot figure it out. Like, the rest of the lab is doing really well. This particular lab is just, I mean, we're talking almost 100% turnover. And we're taking really top talent and putting them in. And so I go, and we'll call her Helen. May or may not have been her name. It was. I go to Helen, and I just said, what's going on here? And she's just like, I don't know. These young people today, they don't know how to work hard. I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch a couple of your meetings. Her meetings were like battle axe. Like, if you raised a point, she would just like slam you right down. If you had an idea, she would smack you down. And so guess what the staff got trained to do? They did just enough to get by. Who calls that, right? The leader calls that. And so ultimately, I asked her, like, what would it take for you to empower a staff? And she's like, new staff. I'm like, oh, okay, we already tried that, right? Ultimately, though, it's for us, the leader, to go first. So the answer here is we got to start asking some questions. She wasn't quite willing to do that. She ultimately, I did get her a smile, and she did recognition. It only took her 3 months. But by the end of the year, the team actually gave feedback that they enjoyed working with Helen by the end of the year. It was fascinating. So start asking these questions. How do you work? How do you feel about being here? Qualtrax is doing this. They're doing I think it's monthly check-in, maybe it's weekly. How are you doing? What's your stress level? Are you red, yellow, or green? And when they see a yellow or a red, they start to ask some questions and saying, hey, what's going on? Is this extra stress? Is there something going on at home? Hey, if you're green, great. Teach it to others. So asking people, how do you feel? How do I contribute? How do I grow? That's the start of a good one-on-one right there that talks about their development. What's special about the company? Ask your staff. Find out from them. If they don't know, then it's our job to reconnect them with purpose, because they've lost track of what's special. It's just become a job. Engaging the whole person and not just the worker. And so sometimes, we had this example at one of the companies I was working with. We had this one person that was just doing enough to get by. But I tell you what, when she talked about Sundays, about what she did at her church, and she was in charge of like the receptions every Sunday, her face just lit up. I mean, she could not stop talking about it. And this is a person that's like, clocking in like 1 minute before time, and she's packing up 15, 20 minutes before she needs to leave. And, if there's a 30-minute lunch, she made sure she got all 30 minutes. And so we tapped into it. We said, what's so special about there? She's like, I get to help plan. I get to like bring people joy. So we said, what if we start like a potluck and you ran that? I mean, her face just lit up. I mean, that was her world. And she went from being able just to get by to became sort of like on a 1 to 5 scale. She had been a consistent 3. She became a consistent 4. She was at a stage where she wasn't going to be a 5, but she was a consistent 4, and we didn't have to backfill that job. So ask about the whole person. What do they love? What could they possibly do? Say what you mean what you say. Too many leaders, we sugarcoat it, and we're afraid that they might get upset. No, tell them what you're seeing and saying, look, here's what I see. You're just kind of status quo person. You're just doing the minimum to get by. What would it take for you to be one of our best performers? What would it take for you to be a really good performer? The other thing that I do is I do a math problem for them. I know a lot of you are like, I don't want to do a math problem. It's okay. It's not a hard problem. Here's what I say. If you don't get better year over year, you have to get 10% better year over year. And they're like, well, why? I'm like, because here's the deal. Almost every year, my department is asking me to get 10% better. Cut budget by 10%, get better efficiency, better capacity. If you're not getting 10% better, I can't get 10% better. And so 1 year, I can probably live with it. But within 3 years of you not getting 10% better, that's like you taking Fridays off at half a Thursday. I can't afford that. And so I talked to them about how can you get 10% better? That's how I challenge them. And then I'd also just say, what are you letting people get by with? Are you letting some people kind of just do mediocre work? If so, people notice. And after a while, if they're not getting recognition, they revert to the mediocre person. My final thing is, sometimes people just lost track of fun. Maybe it's about having some fun. Help this person design some fun and put some fun back in the workday. All right, let's go to the next one. Anyone get I'm entitled workers in the workplace? Yeah? What's their age? Everyone's kind of laughing, This is normally where I get those damn millennials, I will tell you that one of the most entitled people I've dealt with lately is 62. And I asked her how long she's been entitled. She goes, my whole damn life. She was proud of it. She's like, I worked hard to be entitled. I'm like, could we work hard to do the job? So I will tell you that entitled is more of a person than an age, right? And so the first thing I would say is that I've got some young people that are amazing that I work with. They are fantastic. I also have folks that are mid-40s and 60 that they've been entitled for a while. And so don't get hung up that this is just the younger generation. This is really about some people that feel like, you know what, I've been around here for a little while. I've been here for the 40 years. I've been there, done that. I've seen it all. I'm entitled to my opinions. Yeah, you are. But you're also entitled to do a good job. And I need you to do a good job. And so when you've got that, I start to highlight the key behaviors. What's it take to be successful around here? The entitled people have lost track of that. They probably, if they've been around and got entitled, were a good performer at some point. The I'm entitled tend to be a good performer about 3/4 of the job. That's that 1/4 that they're not so great in. And that's part of our job, is to sort of highlight, hey, overall, you're doing a pretty good job. Here's the place where we're running into some problems. So trying to reinforce what's our core value, and a lot of times they're just missing one or two. Here's what I like, but here's the one thing that you're missing. I need you to be able to grow talent here. I need you to give feedback. I need you to take some innovation. Or you just take on show them the gap. Here's where he used to be, here's where he is today, and I need you to close that gap. The next one's one of my favorites. It's actually a book that's called The No Complainers Rule. It's a really great one. I will literally just hand it to people sometimes when they come in entitled and just say, gosh, I got a book just for you. Why don't you read this one and find where you are in the story, and let's come back and have a conversation. It's only about an hour, hour and a half read. It's pretty simple. It's big print. You don't even need your glasses for that one. I'll hand it to them and just say, you come back, and normally people get it, right? If they've been good, they'll get it. I ask them what they need to be successful. Hey, you got all this entitlement. Bring me a couple solutions. Seems like you are still investing in the company. I want to be invested in you, so let's find common ground. What is it will take to be successful? And finally, you know what? Get the right people on the bus. If this person stays entitled and you see it's damaging your culture, then this may be one of those times where you have to say, I'm not sure you're still right for the organization. Sometimes that's enough of a shock to turn them around. If not, then there are people that will want to work on your bus. What I'd say is that you do have to work a little harder now. A couple years ago, you could probably just move them off the bus pretty quick. Right now, you probably need to work on it for 3 to 6 months at least, to see if you can't turn it around, because it'll take you that long to backfill. So give yourself a little runway. Here's what I'd say, though, is that if they are lacking in competence, you can work with that. If it's crappy attitude, don't pass it. That's just called passing trash. No one wants to pass trash, right? And so if it's a crappy attitude, keep it in your department, get it fixed, and then maybe later on you can have them go to another department. If they can't fix it in current department, they're probably not going to get fixed anywhere. Next one. I love this. It's a little hard to see, but it says here, the official winner of the Not My Job contest. You might not be able to see it, but there's like a stick. So instead of moving the stick, we just, we drew the line crooked, right? I love that. So I'm sure some of you got that, the Not My Job every day. And so here's what we got to do. We got to get them recommitted. We've got to help turn your managers, yourself and your manager, into CEOs. What is it that we can help them be committed to, engaged in? What can you own? You might say, well, gosh, I can't own the budget and all that kind of stuff. Yes, you can. You can create small parts of what you're doing and let people own. When they feel like they have some ownership, then they'll stop saying it's not my job. That's just like when I said, giving it to a committee, I will put the biggest complainer on my morale committee because I want them to see how hard it is. I'll say, hey, look, you're going to get $5,000, but you now got to do things that 300 people are going to want to do for 12 months. Good luck. Go figure it out. And what I find is that the complaining goes down, and they come back a little bit more committed and saying, gosh, this is harder than I thought. You can see some of the other ones. Customer intimacy is trying to get them closer to the customer and asking them, tell me about the best customers. What would it take to amaze our customers? Okay, then what can you do to start doing that? You've got all these opinions. Go do it. Follow action and keep the score. That's just a matter of, a lot of times, they will tell you all the things that you're doing wrong. This is me coming back and saying, hey, here are a couple things that you do really well. Here are a couple things I'd like to see you improve. And then finally, pride and stake in the outcome. Put an incentive plan in place. What can they do if they hit it? It could be a day off. It could be some actual money. But helping them show that if you do this, you can be successful. Anyone have this? You're trying to mix all these people in place? Yeah, I know. It's challenging. We got these 4 things. And now we throw in Gen Z or digital natives. Yeah, go ahead. You probably want that picture right there. Hey, wait. I haven't gotten in one yet. Woohoo! Love it. I can sign autographs later if you want. You got these 4 generations. Here's what I want you to know. Each one of us, look, I'm an only child. I mean, I'm the first child, sorry. My brother was adopted when I was 9. I am also like from a small town. I've traveled the world. Like I'm a lot of things. But I'm also a Gen Z. And what matters here is that I truly was a latchkey kid. You know, my mom ended up working, my dad was working, so I truly had a key around my neck. And that's how I went home and walked home like, you know, a mile uphill both ways, as I tell my kids. You're going to be a product of what you grew up with. And so what matters about that is just understanding. So for a Generation Z, the youngest generation, what they came up in was a financial crisis. So the youngest folks, what they're looking for is a good, stable job. They're likely to be more loyal than previous generations. If you will provide them some training and some opportunities, they'll probably stay with you. So the newest generation is looking to be loyal and wanting to make a career someplace. So if you talk to them about development and loyalty, they're likely to stay. The millennials, they're starting to run into the real world, called things like mortgages. They don't want to jump around quite as much. And so what they're looking for are, hey, I'm willing to do a good job now and stay for more than 2 and 3 years, but you're going to have to give me a lot of feedback and be flexible with me. And so you've got some understanding. The important thing here is there's not one style fits all. Use different management styles. I know that for some of us, we were brought up one way. We weren't able to like push back, ask a lot of questions. We couldn't ask why. We didn't get a lot of stuff. We have to get over it. The folks are saying, manage me. I'm uniquely me. Don't manage my whole generation. Who am I? What do I need? Okay? Be more flexible, less black and white. There's too many policies and procedures for a lot of these things. I know you manage big workforces. Look, I manage 2,500 people. There would be some places where I couldn't bend, but where I could bend and try to be creative, try to do that. Let people represent you. Leverage their strengths. Match the generations. So boomers and millennials, they do pretty well together. There's a lot of ability for the boomers, need some help with the technology. For the millennials, they don't know how things get done. They don't understand culture, politics. Match them together. The digital natives are the newest, and the Gen X, what they get along with is that those are the folks that are going to replace them in the workplace, so there's not competition. Millennials and Gen X, the problem is they're competition for the same jobs, right? Boomers and X are competition for same jobs. Millennials and boomers, good sort of match. And then digital natives, that's under 24, and then the Gen X, they're in the kind of the mid-40s right now. They're also a good match. So try to match them up on projects, okay? And then finally, you've got a superstar, but there's no place to promote them. Anyone have that happen? Some of us were in pretty small departments. There's no place to promote them. All right, so the first thing is provide the recognition. Get started. Recognize them today. When you walk out of here, we're going to do an activity after this, but maybe at next break, it wouldn't be bad to text the superstar and just say, hey, I was just thinking about you. Here's 2 things that I really like and respect about you. Thanks for doing this. Put them in stretch assignments. Let them be your delegate. Let them represent you. Grow outside of the workplace. Let them volunteer. So as an example, for a lot of you, you've got budgets, but when I'm coming up through the organization, I might not have a chance to do a budget. But if you go volunteer at not-for-profit, and you could go learn how to do budgeting, you can bring that into the workplace. So maybe in the workplace, I'm not getting everything I could get, but maybe I can go learn someplace else. Maybe they can do something outside of the workplace. Finally, be open about the status. Hey, look, it does stink. You know, I'm 51, you're 47. I'm going to be here for another 3-4 years at least. So that's the way it is. What can I do to keep you engaged? What do you want to work on? I can't move out of spot. I'm here, but I want you to be here. What can I do? Being honest sometimes gets you that extra 2 or 3 years, and in 2 or 3 years, who knows? There might be an open spot that you weren't anticipating pops open. If you're honest, people will stick around. It's when you're like, well, maybe tomorrow, maybe next month. That's too many broken promises. So be honest. And then finally, you know what? If they need to leave, celebrate them. Because what's going to happen is those folks are going to be your future ambassadors. They're going to be the ones that will tell everybody what a great place it was and what a great manager you were. And unfortunately, they just couldn't promote me. But you should go work there because it's a great place to work, okay? So what we'll do is we're going to shift over to our next topic. But I want you to be just thinking in your back of your mind, what are the 1 to 3 things that you want to do? I'm not going to have you like share with a partner. But when you go back to the workplace, don't try to do all these things. Is it setting clear goals? Is it recognition? Is it putting together an onboarding plan? Is it cleaning up the recruiting process? I will tell you though, the investment in the one-on-one, giving people feedback and growing and developing them will be the best time you will invest. So thank you for having me. Looking forward to seeing you throughout the conference, and thanks for coming, and have a great day.